Hello and welcome. In this video, I'm going to be sharing my favorite movie from every year that I've been alive. And this week is my birthday. I just turned 28 years old, so we have 28 movies to go through. So sit back, relax, and we'll get started. Welcome once again, my name's Austin, and this channel is all about digging deeper and going further to better understand faith and film and everything that is in between. If that sounds exciting to you, make sure you click that subscribe button down below so you don't miss out on any future content. And with that out of the way, let's jump into my picks. Now, I want to do kind of a special list for my birthday being this week, and this is actually a list that I've had kind of a rough cut of for at least a year or so now, and I wanted kind of a good reason to kind of put it out there for everyone to kind of see and bounce it off of people, see what their picks would be, that kind of thing. And I figured this would be the perfect opportunity as my birthday revolves around my age, so it'd be the perfect timing to get this one out there. So let's get started, starting with 1993, the year I was born. My pick for my favorite movie from the year 1993 would be a very popular one, and that is Jurassic Park. I have a huge love for the original Jurassic Park movie. Overall, I'd say I enjoy its sequels as well, but the first one has just something very special about it, like lightning in a bottle. The combination of the practical effects with the special effects, a great adventurous story, an awesome blockbuster, comes in my pick for my favorite movie from that year. Next, for the year 1994, I went with Shawshank Redemption. Now, this may be a very serious movie and one that I don't watch all that often, but it's widely regarded as one of the greatest movies ever made, and those feelings are ones that I share as well. I absolutely adore this movie. I love the performances. For as depressing and dark as the movie can be at times, it's so uplifting and hopeful about all of the themes that it focuses on. Next, in the year 1995, a childhood classic of mine, the start of it all, Toy Story, Pixar's first, I almost said live action, Pixar's first feature-length film before they were acquired by Disney. This movie still holds up to this day. The subsequent sequels that came out are still phenomenal all the way up through 4, but this one is such a special one for me because I grew up watching it all the time. I absolutely love the movie. I love the characters. There's so much fun with their kind of whimsical nature, all the creativity that went into each of the toys, their personalities, all the performances for each of them is so much fun, and definitely my favorite movie from 1995. Next, for the year 1996, my favorite movie, another franchise series here, the first movie of the Mission Impossible franchise. I am a huge Tom Cruise fan, and the coolest thing about the Mission Impossible movies is they just seem to get better as the franchise continues, but still, even to today's standards, the first Mission Impossible is a great film. It's much more toned down than what the franchise has kind of become when it comes to its ridiculous and wild stunts, all that kind of stuff. But I really like the kind of more simplified and humble beginnings of the Mission Impossible franchise. It's a very complex film when it comes to who you do and don't trust. It introduced a lot of great things to the action genre that still to this day are utilized, and the fact that this movie still holds up to a lot of action movies today and the franchise has continued to thrive since its origins, this definitely goes down as my favorite movie from 1996. For 1997, we have one of my favorite dramas of all time, and that is Good Will Hunting. This is an absolutely stellar movie. Robin Williams, Matt Damon, Ben Affleck, as well as the additional cast and characters are phenomenal, but especially the main cast are excellent. This is definitely still one of the greatest movies ever written, and in my opinion, ever made. I absolutely love everything about this one. It's such an inspiring and hopeful tale about being the best that you can be, and I love the themes that it focuses on. The performances are so well done. There are some moments that just bring me to tears every time. I absolutely adore Good Will Hunting. Next, for 1998, we have another childhood classic for me, and that is DreamWorks' The Prince of Egypt. This is a movie that I have also loved since I was a child. This is one I don't revisit quite as often as I did when I was a child, but I still love it. It is a definitely animated classic for me, and I love that it doesn't shy away from the biblical origins and themes that it is based on. The cast is great. The music I still go and listen to on Spotify from time to time. The soundtrack by Hans Zimmer, as well as the original songs they incorporated into the movie, are phenomenal. I love it so much, and this is definitely my favorite movie from 1998. Next, for 1999, this was a tough year to pick a favorite in because, interestingly enough, The Matrix and Tarzan, Disney's Tarzan that is, both came out this year. Both of those are on my list of my top 10 favorite movies of all time, which I've also done a video on if you'd be curious to check that out. But because Matrix ranks just a bit higher on that list, I'm going to go with The Matrix for my favorite movie from 1999. Everything about this movie is a masterpiece, from the story structure, the characters, the themes. All of it is phenomenally done. The action is great. It still holds up to this day, in my opinion. And there are so many allegorical and metaphorical themes for this that tie back to the Christian faith. I love that you can enjoy this on a surface level of being a great action movie, but also delve into a lot of its Christian themes as well. So The Matrix, even though it's a close one, goes hands down my favorite movie from 1999. Kicking things off for the 2000s, first, this is another obvious pick, starring Russell Crowe in Ridley Scott's Gladiator. I recently rewatched this one, I think about a year ago. I don't revisit it as often as I would like, but this movie is absolutely phenomenal. It fires on all cylinders. The direction is great. The huge epic atmosphere that is Rome and the scale of the battles that take place are phenomenal. The story is a tale as old as time. I love the themes that it focuses on our lives being both important to the lives we're living now, as well as in the future as we move into the afterlife. I love those themes so much. Russell Crowe gives definitely one of his greatest performances, and for kicking off a new decade of movies, Gladiator is a great start for the year 2000. I'm going to bundle together the year 2001, 2, and 3 for obvious reasons you'll know in a second. What movies came out in 2001, 2, and 3? The Lord of the Rings trilogy. If you've followed my channel or myself, you know I absolutely adore the Lord of the Rings franchise, and the Lord of the Rings trilogy is my favorite film of all time. I consider them all to be one film that's kind of broken up into 3 separate movies, but there's still one cohesive story, and no matter what, Lord of the Rings will always be my favorite. So for the year 2001, 2, and 3, that's going to be my pick. There's not much I can say about these movies I haven't already said. I've been doing a multi-year series going through this trilogy, talking about its themes and characters, the music, the story, everything about this movie. Everything about these movies is absolutely perfect, and I love them so much. Now, after bundling for the years 2001, 2, and 3, we're going to break things back up again, starting with 2004. 2004 was another great year because we got one of the greatest superhero movies ever made, and that is Spider-Man 2. This is from the Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy, starring Tobey Maguire, James Franco, Kirsten Dunst. All of this great cast, great characters, such a phenomenal story about what it means to be a hero and what we would be willing to sacrifice in order to do that. I love the themes that this trilogy as a whole addresses, and especially season 2, especially in part 2. As much as I love the first Spider-Man movie, you can't compete with Lord of the Rings, so I'm going to throw Spider-Man 2 and give it some love. This is definitely one of my favorite superhero movies of all time, and also going to be my pick for my favorite movie from 2004. For 2005, I'm going to go with the first Batman movie that you're going to see on this list, and that is Batman Begins. Christopher Nolan is my favorite film director, and Batman Begins was an absolutely incredible first swing at another Batman reboot. The Batman series is one that's probably one of the most rebooted superhero tales that's been done in film, that is, and I love the direction that the Dark Knight kind of trilogy took with this character. Batman Begins is a great start. I love origin stories, and Iron Man and Batman Begins do it some of the best ways, I think. And since I'm going to be talking about Batman a little bit later with another movie, I'll end it there, but Batman Begins is going to be my pick for my favorite movie from 2005. For 2006, we're going with another childhood movie that I grew up with, and that is Disney Pixar's Cars. I love the first Cars movie. It was one of my favorite movies to watch growing up. Those Cars 2 was a bit of a disappointment. Cars 3 was okay, but neither of those movies can do what the first Cars movie did for me. I love the cast of characters. There's so much variety and diversity amongst the characters that we get introduced to. There's a lot of fun camaraderie between them, but there's also a great story about humbling oneself and being honorable in the things that we do and how we live our life. I love the messages that the movie portrays and focuses on, as well as the exciting races. It's also exhilarating and a movie that I absolutely love. So that's gonna be my pick for my favorite movie from the year 2006. Moving into 2007, another movie off my top 10 favorite movies of all time list, that is going to be Edgar Wright's Hot Fuzz. Edgar Wright is a very unique and interesting director, of his style being so distinct with each of his films, and I think the very best that he has put out so far has been Hot Fuzz. All of his movies that I've seen, I've loved, but Hot Fuzz just goes that extra step to be absolutely brilliant in all of its scripting, editing, storytelling. The characters are hilarious, but at the same time, this movie balances its humor with its action as well as its drama even. I think it's the best of, I guess, three worlds, focusing on drama, action, and comedy. I love this movie so much. It's a blast every time I watch it. I try to watch this one at least once a year. So Hot Fuzz is an easy pick for my favorite movie from 2007. 2008, let's talk about Batman again. 2008 is hands down gonna go to The Dark Knight. What I said with Batman Begins, all of that setup was so well executed, and Christopher Nolan didn't even intend on making a sequel, but when he did, he totally swung for the fences and hit it out of the park. The Dark Knight is another one of my favorite superhero movies of all time. Like I said, the Ra's al Ghul setup and transition into now the Joker character and persona is great. There are so many phenomenal things about this movie, even outside of Joker's performance. The themes that it focuses on, of the cost of being a hero, the vigilante kind of side of things, as well as the thin line that there is between good and evil and how easy it is to stray from either side. I love the themes that this movie focuses on, and the action's great, the storytelling's good, the pacing is really good too, and this is definitely going to be my pick for my favorite movie from 2008. Speaking of directors with a distinct style, my pick for my favorite movie from 2009 is going to be Quentin Tarantino's Inglorious Bastards. This is a movie I actually only got into in the past few years or so, and I've only seen it a couple of times. I absolutely loved it. I'm going to be talking about another Tarantino movie in just a few minutes, so I won't go too much into detail on Tarantino himself, but this movie is incredible. I love the writing, especially in that first 10-15 minute sequence. It's some of the best writing I've ever heard. The story and the way that Tarantino creatively twists history and kind of rewrites it is so exciting and engaging. The characters are so well developed and thought out. It's so easy to side with the ones you're supposed to side and despise the ones you're supposed to despise. It's so well done. I absolutely love this one. And aside from one other Tarantino movie, this is definitely the one I would recommend to most people who maybe haven't seen Tarantino before. So Inglorious Bastards is going to be my pick for my favorite movie from 2009. Transitioning into yet another decade, starting things off in 2010, my pick for my favorite movie of 2010 is going to be The Social Network. This is a match made in heaven of both David Fincher and Aaron Sorkin are perfect for this film. The writing is off the charts, as well as the direction. This movie has such a unique style and kind of flair to it that is so much fun and so exciting. Who would have thought going through a court case about the ownership of Facebook would be so exciting? But between the performances, the writing, and the story, it's so exciting and so enthralling. I love going through this movie and revisiting it once every few years or so. Definitely a great way to start off another decade. So my pick for 2010, The Social Network. I don't think I've ever talked about so many great movies in one video. So moving into 2011, another favorite of mine, obviously. My pick for my favorite movie of 2011 is going to be Moneyball. Another Aaron Sorkin written movie, which I didn't even realize, too, right off the bat. That's that's a solid 2 years of writing The Social Network and then Moneyball. Brad Pitt's performance in this is great, and the kind of transition that Jonah Hill made from comedy into more of a dramatic and more serious taking performance style is awesome. Both Jonah Hill and Brad Pitt's chemistry is absolutely great in this movie. I love their kind of conversations and banter back and forth as they kind of reinvent how we look at the game of baseball. There's so many exciting moments in this. I'm not even really a sports guy, especially even baseball, but I adore this movie. I love it. I get so into it every time I watch it. So Moneyball is definitely going to be my pick for my favorite movie from 2011. Coming back to Tarantino again for the year 2012, which is when I graduated high school, that is going to be Tarantino once again in Django Unchained. I absolutely love this movie. This is my favorite Quentin Tarantino movie. It's on my top 10 favorite movies of all time. And Jamie Foxx and Christoph Waltz, as well as Leonardo DiCaprio, Samuel L. Jackson. The cast is incredible in this movie, but especially Christoph Waltz and Jamie Foxx. Excellent on-screen chemistry, the way they kind of go back and forth and learn from each other, all these different things. This is one of the coolest revenge tales that I've ever seen, and I love this movie. Every time I watch it, kind of forget, for as serious as its themes and tones are, there's so much fun comedy in it as well. This movie really dances the line of serious drama and just laugh out loud comedy really well, and every time I revisit it, I love it so much more. Jumping back into superheroes for the year 2013, we have Zack Snyder's Man of Steel as my pick for my favorite movie from that year. I recently rewatched this one just a couple of months ago, and it was the first time I revisited it in probably 5 or so years, and man, I forgot how much I love it. There are so many rich and overwhelming Christian themes within this movie, and I actually did a video on it because I was so blown away by it, and I didn't remember all those themes. So Man of Steel is such an incredible film. It's my favorite movie in the DCEU, and the way that it kicked off a new style and interpretation of the Superman character, in my opinion, was very well done. I know as a whole this is well regarded, very well regarded as a superhero movie, but a lot of people also are kind of torn and split on it. Some people not liking it at all, but I love this movie, so it's going to be my pick for my favorite movie from 2013. For 2014, we have a sequel that took a great starting off point that was Rise of the Planet of the Apes and kicked off Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. This movie blew my mind the first time that I saw it. The special effects in this film done by Weta Digital are off the charts and improved even more in War for the Planet of the Apes. And as much as I love each of the movies in this trilogy, Dawn is definitely my favorite of the three. It has the best balance of the drama as well as the action, I think, and so it's the best of both worlds. You get a phenomenal story, very Shakespearean in style is kind of how I describe it to people when it comes to the impending war that is coming, as well as the kind of friendships and betrayal that happen. I love this movie so much. It's one of the few movies I've gone back to see in the theaters multiple times, which I don't do very often. I love the Planet of the Apes trilogy, but definitely Dawn of the Planet of the Apes is my pick for my favorite movie from 2014. Moving into 2015, a great, just all around really enjoyable movie, and that is Matt Damon in another Ridley Scott movie, The Martian. I love this movie so much. When it first came out, I went to go see it with my wife. We loved it. I would love to see this movie on the big screen again. The whole kind of set and atmosphere of Mars, the planet of Mars, was great. It was so authentic and realistic. I loved the authenticity of the science that they utilized in the film. Matt Damon's character is so exciting. You never really know what he's gonna say next. You can tell he's having a blast on screen the whole time. And there's such a great movie to kind of get behind and root for him to find his way home. I love this movie so much. I actually haven't seen, there is an extended edition of it, which I don't think changed a ton, but there's an extended edition of it. I just haven't had a chance to see yet, so I would love to check that one out soon, but that is going to be my pick for my favorite movie from the year 2015. 2016 was another tough one because there was two that are really neck and neck for me. The one that I ended up not going with is Denis Villeneuve's Arrival. I absolutely adore the movie Arrival. He's also one of my favorite directors working today, but I can't not pick one of my favorite movies of all time. It's on my top 10 list, Sing Street. This movie brings me so much joy every time I watch it. It's one of my favorite movies to show people because it's not an extremely well-known movie. There's so many great moments. The music in it is great. The story of following your passion, as well as the love story that is kind of mixed in and thrown in with it all. There's so much heart in this film and I adore it so much. I check this one out at least once a year, and as I mentioned, it's one of my favorites to introduce people to, so that's going to be my pick. As much as I love Arrival, for 2016, it's going to Sing Street. Kicking off our final 5 as we're moving into the most recent 5 years, 2017, my pick for my favorite movie from 2017 is going to another Edgar Wright movie, Baby Driver. Now, I love Baby Driver. Unfortunately, I missed this one in the theaters, but the editing in this movie has got to be some of the best editing Edgar Wright has ever done. The fact that it plays so heavily into the musical soundtrack of the film is so awesome. There's such a great and exciting cast of characters. The movie is just bonkers off the wall, so cool, and I love the story that's told, the kind of love story. Again, another love story that's kind of thrown into it. This is one of the most fun and stylish movies that I've seen in recent memories, and definitely my pick for my favorite movie from 2017. Moving into 2018, we have one of the biggest surprises from that year where John Krasinski moved into the horror genre. My pick for that year is going to be A Quiet Place. I loved this movie. This is still, to this day, one of the best theater experiences I've ever had. I was in a basically full theater and everyone was afraid to make a sound throughout the whole thing, didn't want to ruin the experience for anyone else. During the few and far between loud moments of the movie, people would shove as many snacks in their mouth as they could, immediately going back to silence throughout the rest of the film. I love the story of this movie, especially as it focuses on that of being a parent, especially a father, and what that means, and caring for your family. The thrills of this movie are so great and heart-racing. They keep you on the edge of your seat, and it balances out so well with the family drama elements as well. I can't wait to finally check out A Quiet Place Part 2 coming this year, so really looking forward to that. But the first Quiet Place is still my pick for my favorite movie from 2018. Next, my favorite movie from 2019. For a while, this was actually Ford v Ferrari, but in subsequent rewatches of the movie Knives Out, I had to give it to Rian Johnson for that film. I love Ford v Ferrari, but I've seen Knives Out like 4 or 5 times since it's come out. I've only seen Ford v Ferrari twice. They're each very different films, but Knives Out pays off in its rewatches so much more than Ford v Ferrari does. So just because of the rewatchability, the creativity, and the distinct style of the movie Knives Out, I gotta give it to that film. It's such a cool murder mystery, and the twists and turns that it takes all along the way are so exciting, so edge of your seat, and you're so invested in everything that's going on. Knives Out is definitely my pick for my favorite movie from 2019. Before I give you my last pick for my favorite movie so far this year, we're gonna go 2020. I've talked about this one a couple of times on the channel. Christopher Nolan once again returns to the list with Tenet. I love this movie. I've seen it like 3 times so far. I still listen to the soundtrack on repeat multiple times, constantly. The soundtrack is one of the greatest soundtracks to come out of the past 10 years. Christopher Nolan continues to blow our minds with what he is capable of coming up with in his crazy brain of his. This movie just blows my mind every time I watch it, and every time I watch it, I pick up on little details here and there that just make it that much more interesting and exciting for me. So that's definitely my pick for my favorite movie from 2020. Next, my pick for my favorite movie so far this year. We haven't gotten a ton of movies yet, but summer movie season is about to kick in, so we're gonna get some great summer blockbusters and tons of other stuff coming later this year. But so far this year, my favorite movie has been Zack Snyder's Justice League. This movie is so incredible of what it was able to accomplish. It's a miracle that it happened, and I'm so glad that it did. It took what was so mediocre about the original and just turned everything up to 11. It doesn't matter how long this movie is, it's going to fly by. I love this one. It's hopefully coming out to Blu-ray soon in the US. I can't wait to grab that one on 4K, check it out again. I love what Zack Snyder did, being able to see that story that he came up with restored to his original vision. Love it. So far, even though it's kind of technically a remake, but not really. It's such a different movie from the original that was released. I'm gonna count it as a new movie released this year, and it's definitely been my favorite one so far to come out this year. Whew, so that concludes my picks for my favorite movie from every year I've been alive. I thought this was a great idea to kind of do this for a birthday, it was a great chance to be able to get this video out to you, as it's an idea I've had for a while. If you're still around at this point, thank you for sticking around. I really appreciate it. Make sure you comment down below with your picks for your favorite movie from every year you've been alive. If you gotta knock me for some of the picks I've gone with, do it. I love having conversations with people down in the comments. I look forward to hearing what you got to say about my list, your list, all that kind of stuff. So thank you again for sticking around to the end of this video. I'll see you in the next one.